Good morning, good morning. Welcome back to Market Wake Up. It is Monday. It is the 18th. I just had to look at the date there. It is Monday the 18th. Welcome to Market Wake Up, your one-stop shop to get you up to date with everything you need to know for your trading week. So I've changed my intro a little bit. We're going to break down the macro mumbo jumbo without the big words, dive into a couple of big stories. Today, we're going to talk about the euro. We're going to talk about, I know we've talked about it a lot, but we're going to do a little bit more of a deep dive. And I've got a hell of a take it to go today on a company that I almost am willing to bet every single person in chat knows. I'm going to explain a seasonal play a little bit later. Guys, without further ado, let's get into Market Wake Up. It's good to be back. It's good to be back, John. Happy Monday. Happy Monday and trading week for everyone at home. Wherever you're tuning in from, give us a wave, say good day, let us know where you're tuning in from and what you're trading. John, how's your weekend been?
It's actually been really nice, I must admit. It was a bit of a chilled one for me, actually. My partner was away doing a lot of stuff, so I was basically hang on. Service for the weekend.
You can't say it was really nice, followed by my partner was away for the weekend. Your partner
That's why it was so nice. No, Ellie's great, but it was nice to. Gosh, I hope she'll watch this.
You're in the doghouse now. Yeah, sorry, mate.
Maybe I should just leave now. Quit now. No, but it was nice for me because I got to switch off a little. I got to just chill. Ended up just watching some films on Saturday night, just like this. I pretty much just lay back and just chilled, which was nice. Yesterday was also good. Got to watch a bit of football, which was good from an England point of view. So, yeah, I mean, I've just had one of those weekends where I've fully switched off. I just mentally took myself away from the markets for a little bit, which was nice. But then obviously comes to Sunday evening and then you see reports going on X, Y, and Z and you start going, oh no, what's going to happen going into the next week? Considering the end of last week was actually quite interesting. I don't know if you were around for the end of play last week, but that was quite interesting.
Yeah. But I found... I'm going to let you comment on it.
Okay. Well, how was your weekend first? I feel like I've dove straight into it. How were you?
Fantastic. My partner was here the whole time, and that was just a fantastic weekend. Just digging your hole for you. No,
thanks,
no, it was very much the same thing. Look, when we sign off on Fridays, or when we produce some content on Fridays, I always leave it the same way. Get away from the charts, get away from trading, spend some time with your friends and family, come back on Monday refreshed. I live by that mantra. On a weekend, like phone disappears. Like I really try to switch off as much as possible. I did manage to catch Mike Tyson's return to the ring.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a waste of time. But
how disappointing was that?
It was. I've got to say, okay, we got thoughts on this. Did anyone in chat watch the Mike Tyson fight? You made a comment on LinkedIn and related it to trading.
I did one of those typical LinkedIn posts, but but for me, it was quite an interesting concept, right? I wasn't necessarily for it, but they'd released this mini documentary on Netflix, and I was very invested in that. I watched it and I was like, oh, you know what, this is good. And then, you know what, I was loving just like Tyson looking like prime Tyson at some points in the training footage, and he was like bang bang, and I was just like, wow, if I was to get rocked by one of those, it would be night for me. It'd be goodbye, Jono, sayonara. See you in another life. Do you know what I mean? So I was just kind of like, oh, this is interesting to me. But it just kind of threw up a little bit in my mind of like experience versus sort of amateur bullishness within yourself, right? When I was younger, you have a lot less fear, and you think you can do a lot more than you have this kind of innate confidence, right?
Confidence.
Yeah. Whereas as you get a little bit older, you're not necessarily less confident, I don't feel, but you start to analyze the risks a little bit more. Of what could potentially happen, and you have more scenarios in your head. So yeah, it was very interesting to see the kind of the experience versus the sort of amateur. I didn't watch it, fortunately, because it was 4 a.m. for me, and I wasn't willing to give up my sleep for it. Put it that way. I thought, you know what, I'll be that guy that watches the highlights, like I do with the UFC and stuff. So I was like, watch the highlights, and yeah, it was really disappointing, wasn't it? It was disappointing.
Yeah, it was two mates that didn't want to beat each other up, right? Yeah, I mean, you could see Tyson. He looked old. You can see him holding back some punches. He didn't want to kill Jake, right? And they are mates, and vice versa. There were plenty of times Jake really could have gone in, and it almost felt like he was being sympathetic. It almost felt, all right, like this isn't a fight. Now, the only reason I don't deem the whole thing a massive failure and waste of time is because the women's fight, the fight before, might arguably be one of the best fights I have ever witnessed. That was just an absolute slugfest, and it was just fantastic to see. So, regardless of how you felt about the Mike Tyson fight and the Jake Paul fight, the undercard fights, they were actually really entertaining. There were some decent fights in there, and it was I mean, it broke records for Netflix company though.
Wow, yeah, wasn't there something like 250 million views overall for the event for Netflix? That's brilliant for Netflix. I mean, you know, how that'll affect stock prices and stuff, I have no idea. You're probably more versed in that than me. But I'd be interested to see. I know. As a whole, the event probably didn't go as planned. I know there was a lot of calls that there was a lot of lagging streams and things like that. So, but I think it's quite interesting that Netflix are trying to breach into the live sports arena, because they did it with golf earlier in the year. They did like a golf F1 crossover, didn't they? For what's that? What's the F1? Drive to Survive.
Yeah, that's right. They did behind the scenes of PGA.
Yeah, so it was full swing Drive to Survive coming together, wasn't it, to create this event? Yeah. So it's interesting to see that they're going into that live space. Obviously, live sports brings a lot of attention to you know, the broadcasters. So if they do continue on that path and do try and dive into live sports a little bit more, then you know, maybe Netflix might look a little bit more promising in terms of stock valuations going forward.
Well, let me add to it, because they used this event to advertise their upcoming sports. They've done a deal with the NFL. The NFL is going to be televised on Netflix. They've also done a very large merger deal with the WWE. The WWE is now on Netflix as well. So yes, this was their announcement into sports, right? And they're in one of those positions where people can't compete because they don't need to do pay-per-view. And that was the boxing fights, UFC fights, MMA fight, they're all pay-per-view. That's how they make their money. And this was really that first major one that wasn't pay-per-view. You just had to have a Netflix account, which most people around the world do anyway, or know someone that does. And I think it's just introduced. I won't be surprised if you see some new heavyweight titles and things like that done on Netflix, not pay-per-view. I'm hoping that comes, because I'm sick of having to pay $50 to $60 per watching one fight. And especially, I mean, imagine that was pay-per-view and you paid to watch Mike Tyson return of the wing, and he did that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing streaming platforms take more of an angle on sports and bring us more sport for a cheaper price. Hoping. I don't know if that's how it'll go, but I'm hoping.
We can only dream.
Yeah. Imagine if sport was free. Wouldn't that just like how hard would that be to us? Regardless. All right, let's get off the sports talk. Let's get back into what we do for a living, John. Let's get back into trading. It's Monday morning for most of you. It's Monday afternoon for me. G20 meetings this week. They're all sitting together to chat politics, come up with nothing, leave with nothing. Standard G20 meeting. So I'm looking forward to see what comes out from that. Is there anything that you want to touch on from Friday?
No, not really. It's just the only thing that that kind of caught my attention from last week was the close, right? I don't know if you saw, but the retail sales towards the end of the day around 1:30 for me were the data that dropped was quite interesting because, again, it was the revision of the figures that seemed to have caught the highlights again. You know, we had a revision down for, well, it was 0.5% revision up to 1% on the core retail sales, but then the number that comes out is 0.1. So that's quite a significant difference when you look at the revision and whatnot. Retail sales were also revised up to 0.8%. down to 0.4%. So retail sales kind of showing that decrease in the consumer spending, but is it because of the revisions? And then it confuses you, right? But the market took that as a bearish thing. S&P 500 closed aggressively lower. Dollar actually closed lower on the day eventually, just kind of stuck around with that kind of data. But yeah, if you look at the sort of US stock markets, they closed lower on the day, kind of really cementing the bearishness for the week that we've seen across the US stock market. We obviously had the bullish run following Trump. We've now seen the week after really just coming back lower and closing lower, but not necessarily recovering the whole Trump trade just yet. But yeah, that for me was last week was quite interesting because we also saw the volatility index jump quite a bit. I think it was up 12.5% on the day when I last looked. And obviously we know the correlation between the volatility index and the US stock market. We usually see volatility index rises, stock markets coming lower, but also the Japanese yen as well actually caught a bid. And you saw the likes of dollar yen, Aussie yen in particular felt the brunt of that. So yeah, the market kind of switched a little bit into risk off mode. And we had this kind of safe haven play coming in on Friday. And I wondered if that would float into the start of this week. I haven't looked at the VIX today, actually, so I don't know where the VIX is being priced right now. But my thoughts would be it would be higher. Some interesting developments over the weekend in terms of Ukraine, Russia could also play into this a little bit as well. I don't know if you've seen the news about basically Biden saying, yeah, you can use our missiles now to Ukraine. Russia's come back and said, no, you're getting a little bit more involved now. You're basically saying NATO countries are now really getting involved in this. So tensions there, not great.
It's interesting because like Trump's about to take office, and Trump and Putin had a relationship. I'm not going to say a friendship because I don't think it is, but they had a relationship, and it's very, an understand. That's right, an understanding, and as Trump is the bully, Putin won't want him back. In office. He really won't want him back in office. And it's interesting that the Biden administration's signed that off as they're about to hand over office. That's that feels like a pretty big agreement to send off right there. And your last hurrah. Oh, by the way, use our missiles like that. That's interesting. But I think that war's been priced in for a little bit. In terms of the Euro area, I think they've got their own problems regardless of that war. I think a lot of politics will use that war as an excuse for a range of different things, but I'm going to talk a little bit more on that in just a second. You're not wrong. The VIX did pop up yesterday quite large, trying to fill that gap. Trying to get up to fill that gap there now, moving up above the 16.8s. We're sitting at 16.55. I haven't quizzed you on it because I know you already mentioned the VIX before. And I'm not just going to give you brownie points for no reason, John. You've got to. So the VIX is heading up a little bit higher. We're sitting at 16.55 or 5.4 at the moment. And I don't really have a play on it. I don't know if we're going to go up or down at the moment, to be honest. I'm feeling a little bit relaxed.
Okay, nice way to think about it.
I'm feeling relaxed. I don't feel like there's anything, which is a little bit crazy to say given the geopolitics around the world at the moment, but I don't feel like there's anything that's going to catch me off guard right now. I feel like I'm in a position where I know what's going on geopolitically. I understand the risks of being positioned in certain places because of that, and I fail to see a large out there event that is going to catch me really off guard. If it is going to catch me really off guard, it's also going to catch the rest of the world really off guard. Like it is what it is, one of those black swan events. So I'm feeling quite relaxed. I'm feeling not overly confident, just relaxed. Nothing's stressing me out. Nothing's like, oh my God, like we need to be here. I'm looking at the markets and I'm kind of like, okay, I can work with this.
Yeah, definitely. I think the pricing for me on the VIX is interesting because, it kind of makes me think about, something you said there is quite interesting. You said something about like you don't know where it's going to go up or down. Nobody knows where it's going to go. Cool. Hedge funds don't know where it's going to go. Nobody knows where it's going to go. Okay, so that I think that is also something that needs to come into the retail trading space, right? We don't know where it's going to go. We just have probabilities of X, Y, and Z happening. And then we have confirmations to try and get on the back of those probabilities, right? Nothing is 100%. If it was, me and Jordan probably wouldn't be sitting here right now. Everyone else would probably be rich as well if there was 100% in this game. But, essentially, we don't need to predict what's going on right now. We just need to kind of watch what's happening and let the market kind of tell us what's going on. If we do start to see the VIX ramping up, maybe we do start to think about the safe haven plays and we go, okay, well, what is really going on? What's pushing this underlying risk factor within the market? How can I take advantage of this potential short-term move? Because for me, I still feel like the VIX will probably come a little bit lower and probably will continue to move lower. So I still like the idea of being long US indices, right? But not necessarily at where prices are right now. I don't like where the prices are now. I think mid-term, I still like them higher. So I'm just waiting for better prices. I'm waiting for confirmations, X, Y, and Z. And that's the beauty of what we can do. We don't have to necessarily predict it and go, that's happened. I think this is going to happen. That doesn't make money, right? Saying, I think this is going to happen. We have to react to what is actually going on and waiting for those confirmations. So, yeah, for me, VIX moving higher is interesting. It makes me think about what's going on. But can I say with any kind of degree of certainty that this is going to move higher or not? No, right? We've just got to watch it.
All right. Does anyone else think John's being negative for a Monday? It's a lock. It's a lock. No, I agree. Yeah, we bet on probabilities is what we do. We're nutcases for doing it, but that is the job of being a trader. We analyze, we look at a probability, we believe we have an edge, we put our money where our mouth is, and that is the most important thing. John and I, put our money where our mouth is. We don't just sit here and chat about the market. We bet on what we talk about. And that's why it's so important and a little bit different from a lot of the analysis you'll get out there as well. Without further ado, John, I'm going to give you a run through on all these assets, where we're priced, what's moving, what's not moving today. And then we'll jump into what's looking ahead this week, some of the big news announcements that we have. So to start us off, the Aussie dollar is unchanged. The euro is up 0.15%. The pound is unchanged. US dollar CAD unchanged, sitting at 1.409. John, 1.409. What was the number that I gave you?
141.
Sorry?
141.
141, was it? 141? Just
yes, I've lost the bet, George. I've lost the bet. All right.
US dollar Japanese yen is up 0.4% today, finding as you a bit of weakness in the Japanese yen at the moment. The XJR is up 0.3. The DAX is unchanged. The Nikkei is up 0.6. The FTSE is unchanged, and the S&P 500 up 0.12% so far today. Coffee up 2%. Gold 0.9%. Natural gas 4.95% up. Boom. Look at that for pre-market. Sugar is up 1%. Silver's up 1.3%. And oil's down 2.43% as well. Bitcoin up 2.2%. Ethereum up 1.37%. And bonds relatively unchanged. Not much to report in there. Looking ahead this week, there's a big bit of news, which is my favorite. And we're going to touch on that for my big bite today. That comes to the German manufacturing PMI. All right, that's coming out on Friday. Friday is PMI day, hands down. All Europe, you got the Great British Pound as well, and you got the US dollars manufacturing and services PMI, sprinkled in some Canadian retail sales on Friday as well. Friday's a big day. Moving back one to Thursday, you got Governor Bullock speaking, the RBA. It's going to move the Aussie dollar, US dollar unemployment claims as well. Wednesday, CPI coming out of the UK. And Tuesday, you're looking at CAD CPI as well, looking at some of the inflation figures. Other than that, not much to report. John, anything you're keeping your eye on?
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff coming up this week. Obviously, we've got the Bank of Japan Governor Ueda speaking. I don't know whether that's finished. I think it has, but I don't know what the comments have been from that yet. So I'll need to go away, digest that. Obviously, the price and you're looking at there with the yen and whatnot has not moved too much. So there's probably not said he's probably not said anything there that's kind of blown everyone out of the water. What I find interesting this week is we do have China interest rates coming up, decision on China rates again. Are we going to see any more stimulus? You know, we know that they've cut aggressively recently. Are we going to see any more kind of cuts in that situation? We're sitting at 3.6% on the 5-year, on the 1 year at 3.1%. So they could try and bring these rates down even further to try and help push some stimulus there. If we do see the stimulus that they've been promising for so long that we've just failed to see. We're
going to get Sanders before we get stimulus.
Yeah, of course. But if there's the chances that the market's pricing in, we're not getting it right now. So where's the turn going to be? The turn is if we get it right. So I think at the moment, the stuff that's been impacting China, which is then floating over to the Australian dollar. We know the Australian dollar's been underperforming recently. So, you know, there could be some positivity out of that, maybe. I'm not willing to put my money where my mouth is on that just yet. But that is interesting data coming up for me. Obviously, we've got some inflation data as well out of Canada. Canada needs a bit of an uplift. Obviously, dollar CAD continued to break out of those highs, which I did expect. I was expecting more of what I was looking for was a breakout of the range, maybe a comeback within the range, depending on sort of how things are going. Because I'm looking at the commitment of trader pricing and stuff going on the Canadian dollar, and it is starting to reach those levels again. That would make me want to be a buyer of Canadian dollars. So again, though, I just need to wait for the confirmation of that to all come to fruition, really, rather than getting too much over there. CPI could be a catalyst for that, right? If we see the CPI jump higher, it came in a lot lower previously. That's why the Bank of Canada have been cutting rates so aggressively. If we do see an uptick in inflation, might give the Bank of Canada a sigh of relief, might give them the rate cuts are doing what we were liking or wanted them to do. So introduce a bit of growth there. So I'll be interested to see how that dynamic does play out for this week as well. But like you said, Friday is going to be a big day. Big data list. You know, it's a big data list when you open up your economic calendar and you have to scroll down. So you know it's a big week like that. But typically, whenever I see weeks like that, when there's a lot of red folder news, I say that lightly as well because you have to look at everything. I do tend to lean more towards stuff like buying US dollar or like buying Japanese yen because I do lean towards a bit of risk off in those scenarios.
Well,
in that sense.
I'm going to challenge it. John. Yeah. Today's big bite. Let's get into it. Let's get into the big bite. Welcome, everyone. Take a seat. Settle down. We're going to talk euro. Big move coming for the euro. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, if you look at the euro US dollar right now, it is not overly attractive.
No.
This thing has fallen off a cliff. John, you know I've been a day trader for a little bit. You know my strategy in day trading has been fading. Moves that I think are over-exaggerated, lackluster, losing strength. What do I want to do? I want to flip them. I can't get that out of my bones. I want to flip it. Now, I know the euro's in the bin, right? We've said that plenty of times. We even actually in our weekly newsletter did a little segment on how much the euro was in a bin. I will tell you right now, the boss will beat the living out of me if I presented this idea to him. Okay. I want to buy the euro into the German manufacturing PMI.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's an interesting thing to say.
So the
Why?
German manufacturing PMI is disgusingly low, right? And that is pulling down the euro area PMI. So just for reference, Germany's economy is 29% of the GDP of the whole Eurozone. Like they're a big, big player. All right. And then I think it's like 32% of Germany's economy is manufacturing. So these things are playing very big players here. The last PMI was revised to a 43. Okay. Now, while that was an uptick revision, while that did show growth, that's 43. You want to be above the 50. And we're celebrating 43. The forecast for Friday, do you know what it is?
46, is it?
Nope.
Oh, nope. Okay. Nope. I went off the top of my head there.
Is a solid guess. The forecast for the German flash manufacturing PMI is 43.1. We are looking for a 0.1% uptick, which means this chart right here is showing you everyone's calling the bluff. They're saying that's not coming, short the euro. German manufacturing still in the bin. It's not what we want to do, which means we're very, very concentrated, very flipped. Which means if there just happened to be an outlier piece of data, John, well, there's a lot of people caught off guard, a lot of people caught offside. So my play here is somewhat from one of your playbooks. Do I think it's probable? No. If it happens, do I think I'll make money? Oh, yeah. This is one of those plays where your risk management needs to be in check. I want to buy the euro into the manufacturing PMI on the slight opportunity, which I'm going to throw at a 30%, that we do see some strengthening numbers out of the German flash manufacturing PMI, and it catch a whole lot of people off guard and move the euro for a small pullback to the upside. Small pullback, right? One thing we need to be wary of, and I say this with asterisks, okay, be wary of it. Lagarde is chatting at the same time. So this has a lot at play, but it's worth a cheeky punt. It's worth a cheeky punt in my opinion. I'm going to look for it. So the euro right now heavily shorted. This isn't coming out till Friday. We've got 4 trading days until this comes out. So we really could be sitting anywhere. If we are still sitting below the 106 level, come Friday, when the manufacturing PMI is due to release, I want to see if we can get it up to maybe the 106.5s. That's a 50 pip move, right? I'm looking for a 50 pip move. That's it. I don't think we'll get it from that data. I think maybe the German manufacturing PMI might have enough strength to move it maybe 20 pips, 30 pips. Could be a prolonged move, could be ambitious. Nevertheless, I like my odds. I don't think they're in my favor. I do not think the German manufacturing PMI is going to go well. I really don't. But in the event they do, I do think the risk to reward here is quite large. And I think it tickles my fancy. Now, I did some diving because there's a couple different ways we can trade this play. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the euro. We could look at the DAX. Now, one thing about the DAX is it's not really pricing in the same way the euro has been, this kind of overall weakness. So the weakness we're seeing in the euro, we can't really pin on Germany because the DAX is holding its own. The top 40 companies in Germany are holding their own. So manufacturing is bad, but how bad? So I decided to dive into some of the big manufacturing companies within the DAX, right? One, for example, because I forgot how to pronounce this, it's like Siemens. I want to say Siemens. Yeah. I thought it might have a German tang, but I'm just not Australian. Siemens, look at this. To have a terrible manufacturing outlook in Germany, only for their biggest industrial engineering and manufacturing producer publicly listed to be running for the moon. That's interesting.
It's interesting, isn't it?
That's interesting. Does this hint at anything on what that manufacturing PMI will be? No. Does this hint at investor sentiment? Yes. Because if you truly think German manufacturing is in the bin and it's burning and, oh my God, we're at dire straits, why would people be buying in to one of the largest manufacturers in Germany?
Yeah.
Right. On the opposite, we know Volkswagen have had its troubles. That is on its way down. that is matching the euro. So I'm bringing you two to contrast this opinion. If you look at the Volkswagen and the cars side of things, not pretty. Not pretty. We also have the fight of EGs, right? Electronic vehicles, EVs, sorry. We have the fight of EVs, which Volkswagen need to take front on. But there's a bit going on here. So I want to unpack. My play idea is German manufacturing PMI, anything positive. I'm looking for 34s, high 34s, which is still very negative, but positiver. Anything in and around there, look for a bounce on the euro. Definitely could capitalize on the DAX, however, if you don't fancy buying the euro, which is very well and truly in the bin.
Yeah, and just to side note this, we're bringing out a video tomorrow talking about this very much in depth. I've done a video on this. So I'm looking forward for you guys to see that, because we kind of go into depth of why this is really happening to the euro. But it's very interesting because I have a similar opinion on what I want to do with the euro and euro US dollar in particular. Well, not euro US dollar in particular, but euro in general. And there is a seasonal play on euro that usually starts sort of coming towards the end of November through to December, which can be quite strong. So I like the idea that the market, or in general, is very focused on euro short right now. Andrew, this is a great question. What currency would you put euro against? This is exactly what I'm coming on to in a second, because that's the idea in my head, right? Because we know the dollar is strong right now. So could we maybe go and capitalize on a currency that's not doing so well instead? So this is the way I always look at it. I always say, right, okay. So even when I look at this in terms of commitment to trader reports and stuff, I like to look at, okay, this, let's say euro has a long signal. Okay, it doesn't right now, but just as theoretical, it has a long signal. Do I want to go and pit that against a currency that's strong? No, because I want to try and maximize my reward to risk ratio, right? I know that if I was to buy into a currency that's going to flip, it's going to go further against a currency that's weaker, right? Now, one currency I like the look of, or one currency pair I've really changed my opinion on, right? So I have been very bearish euro pound. Now I'm potentially looking to flip that idea.
Oh, this is big.
This is a big one, right?
Big. This is big for your book.
Yeah, I'm looking to potentially flip this idea.
Okay, I feel like we need to unpack the pound, regardless of the. Is that what we're going to do? We're going to unpack it because this is big.
I'm not going to unpack the pound into detail, but because I want to use that as another video coming up for everybody. So I'm not going to do it too much into detail today. But thinking about the pounds, and I've been looking a lot into the pound's forecast for growth, right? And don't get me wrong, the Eurozone's forecast for growth isn't great either, okay? But neither is the UK. The UK is going to go through a complete change of guard right now. It has gone through a complete change of guard. There's been some very interesting comments with regards to the UK at the moment. I mean, there's been even something, obviously we've got the G20 meetings coming up. UK is sitting on the fence when it comes to global politics, I feel right now. They don't want to upset Trump, for one, but they kind of are, because they don't really agree on anything. And that could damage us slightly. There are companies that could leave the UK, right, because of all the new taxes coming in. I'll go into this in the deep dive into a video, but just for one example, national insurance is increasing in the UK, and employers have to contribute more. So there's been big talks that a lot of companies are considering moving out of the UK, or not necessarily expanding within the UK, which is a big problem for the UK in general, and kind of cements the idea that the growth isn't going to be there. Okay, so I'm really looking at an opportunity now that the pound is going to start to underperform. If we look at it against the US dollar, we've had 7 weeks of downside, right? If we look at it, and I know a lot of other currencies have, but I was looking at how far pound US dollar's fallen from these highs compared to most currencies, and we're down over 6% when a lot of, a few other currencies aren't as aggressively lower as the US dollar right now. And I like the play here for the pound to move lower. So I'm looking again, just trying to think outside the box. If I want to be, I'm looking at more sort of euro on the seasonal play. I still feel euro has a lot of problems. I feel like at the moment they've done a little bit, there might be a bit of a band-aid situation. They're just going to cover up the cracks a little bit because they've managed to, the German sort of snap election has now been sort of cemented as in January, I think it is, or February 25th, I think it is. So there's less talk about that right now, which can create a little bit of stability short term. And then you've got the seasonal play for euro, which is a very strong seasonal play. I'll add, and I do feature it within the video. So if I want to be a buyer, I want to buy against a currency that I feel is going to do a little bit worse. One of those I do feel like is the Great British Pound. I'm just going to delete a lot of these drawings off here. So let's just have a look at it from a technical perspective, right? Because a lot of people could potentially relate to that aspect of the market. Euro Pound's been trending lower for a while. It's actually been quite nice in terms of just being from the UK and going traveling to Europe, because we've had some decent prices when it comes to the euro for a change. But looking left, we've come into a very big level of support, right? This level down through here, around about this 8,300 zone, has been a strong level of support in the past. You can see back in 2020, we had a reaction here. Back in 2022 as well, we had a large reaction from this point. If you zoom out a little bit, it kind of looks like a very large sort of ascending triangle pattern, right? Where you'd probably say there could be something like this in the future if the Eurozone doesn't sort itself out and we don't see any kind of significant growth in Germany and stuff like that. But I'm looking at a very short-term play here. I like the seasonal that we get in euro, and I'm liking downside in the pound. So weekly, we had a nice strong close back above and close back within the previous week, which to me, that's, if you're a seller, that's worrying. Right. If you're trying to sell this currency and you see that close, I don't like that at all. When I look at the daily chart, we're starting to see a little bit of momentum coming back in here as well. Looking at the 4-hour chart, we're starting to see these cycles turn out. Now, this is something that I really look for. When we start to see the 4-hour kind of breaking into new higher highs, I start to think, okay, what are we going to be in for the next sort of few days? Now, looking back just quickly at the daily chart, I know I'm talking a lot about technicals here, so I just want to go back and just show you these. Looking back at the daily chart, if price was to move higher, I always say, if prices move higher, where is it likely to move back towards? And I always go and look at previous highs, because that's where selling has been taking place, and that's how I like to look at the markets. We can also see there was this kind of little pause in here as well. So I'm looking to try and take advantage of the euro long. I'm going to try and look to take advantage of it against the Great British Pound, and I'm going to be looking to see if I can buy these kind of 4-hour cycles into these kind of areas of resistance.
I like it. I like it. We're both long euro. We both think euro's in the bin, and we're both long euro this week. That is impressive.
Yeah. So in the video, it depends how the euro goes. I'm looking at this seasonal play, which is a month. And we know as traders, right, that the markets aren't just straightforward. They're not just going to go in a straight line. So I think it's very important that we understand that, and that we have to react to what's going on, right? So let's say euro dollar doesn't turn, then we don't have to act on that seasonal play, right? So yeah, that's just something to take into consideration.
That's fair. I got to take it to go today. A great one. By Season Axe, right? I found it. This is a company that every single person is going to know. Every person. I'd argue it might even be the shoes that John's wearing. Are you wearing shoes?
No, I've got slippers on.
You have a pair of runners downstairs?
Okay, so is it going to be? Can I guess?
Yeah.
So my gym shoes are Nike shoes.
That's the one.
There we go. There we go.
It is Nike. Seasonal play through 18th of November up to the 7th December. 20 years of data, 95% hit rate, wow. Average return of 3.7%, average return on the gains at 3.9%, 1 loss, 19 wins. Nike. seasonal play from right now up until the 7th of December. 19 wins over the past 20 years, 1 loss. And that 1 loss came in 2005.
Wow.
There's your take it to go. Have a think about it. Do some research. Do your own research. Nothing we give you or say is financial advice. It's merely John and I's opinion on what we see. John, you got to take it to go?
I do not have a take it to go, but I like that Nike one.
You can
I
take
like
that
it
one.
very much.
You can take that one. All right.
I'll
You
take
can give
that
it to Ellie. You can tell her welcome back and hopefully make up for the comments you've made. But guys, thank you for joining us. If you haven't, join our mailing list. We put out an email every single week, kind of diving into our deep dive analysis. We make it a little bit more fun. We make it a little bit more interactive than what we can here. And there's a brand new video coming out tomorrow as well from John. So make sure you've hit the subscribe bell and turn the notification on. Without further ado, have a great week and we'll see you soon. Cheers.
Peace.